make a girl a promise. If you know you can't keep it. They let me pick. Did I ever tell you that? Choose whichever Spartan I wanted. You know me. I did my research, watched as you became the soldier we needed you to be. Like the others, you were strong and swift and brave. A natural leader.
Welcome to the Xbox Series Podcast, Episode 6. Unfortunately, Deadly, Headley and Gamzly had a massive falling out. It was brutal, sent shockwaves through the community, so we couldn't have them on together today. Hopefully they'll settle that, and next week we'll have them both back talking nicely. But for now, we've got the Darge Knight filling in, helping us out. Darge, how are you doing?
Right, mate. Another 2 days.
Right, mate.
I'm alright, mate. Yeah, just another 2 days since the last show on Tuesday. But yeah, I'm alright. I'm just trying to think if I managed to get to play anything. I know it might come back to me, but yeah, thanks for having me on. Obviously, Gamzly couldn't be here, so I felt honoured to take his place. But yeah, hopefully it's a one-week only affair.
So for those that don't know, Darge is with us every Tuesday on the Arcadia Roundtable podcast and very active in our Discord as well. So he's always about, always here and always willing to show up when we need him. So thank you very much, Darge, for that. Deadly Headley, I know that you're probably still a little bit emotional. I know that harsh words were exchanged, but besides the Gamzly problem, how are you doing?
Gamzly and I are great, by the way. We get on like a house on fire. But we like stirring shit up here on the Xbox Series Podcast. It's sort of a running theme. But I'm very, very good. Obviously, other than, incredibly hurt by the cruel words that Gamzly sent in my direction. I'm doing great. Thank you.
That part's true, actually. Gamzly has cruel words for everyone, whether he likes you or not. I think especially if he likes you, because I get a bunch of them. Most of what I said was complete horseshit. Like Darge and Headley, they get along great. So, not Darge. Darge as well. Everybody does. It's all a big happy family in that. But Gamzly and Deadly Headley have not fallen out. I'm just speaking complete nonsense. What I have asked Darge to do, though, is I asked him to come along in place of Gamzly, and he surpassed my expectations, because what Darge did was he recommended that I play a game almost as bad as Brotato. He recommended that I play Peggle 2. It's a lot better than Brotato, to be fair, but I've been playing that, and I don't understand the appeal. Darge, I know you haven't played this one for a while, but I doubt you've played much since Tuesday that we can really talk about. Tell me what makes Peggle good, and why I should really engage with this and topple everyone's high scores within the community.
First things first, I think people in the chat are saying that I'm low. But I don't know. About that. Peggle 2. I think the reason I was so addicted to it is I don't know. Yeah, I'm like just watching the ball bounce around. The whole thing is to be fair. It started back in the Xbox Live Arcade days with the first one, when people were loving 1 versus 100, and games of that ilk. And EA bought Peggle out, and like I said, like my memories of that was me and a few of my pals on Xbox Live. You'd send them a message on a voice message on Xbox Live and go like, yeah, check the score on level something or the other, and you'd beat their score, and then you'd compete against each other playing this game of just bouncing this ball around, Obviously, we've come a long way since then, but Peggle's a fun time. don't go into it expecting The Last of Us 2, or The Last of Us in general, because that's not what it's about. It's just a fun little bounce. What was that? That game, where you drop the disc and it like bounces around into a slot. That's basically what Peggle's like. But I see some people in Discord giving it the large, telling me that I'm washed up and they're coming for me. And I'm ready to go whenever. The champ's still here, So yeah, hopefully we get a little Peggle action going in the Discord community, and I'll still be top of the tree. You know what I mean?
I tried. Pete's called me entirely. I went on to Peggle to topple all the high scores because Pete's been knocking you off quite comfortably. He's like slaughtering your scores all over the place. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. Someone's gone. And he's back. Part of the community thing, I was like, I'm going to just destroy all of the scores and be king of this Discord server. And I couldn't even see the high scores for the first thing. It made me go through 10 damn levels of the thing before I quit out and went back in and then saw the friend scores. And was like, I'm miles off. Had another go in and I'm like, no, I'm miles off. I don't want to learn this game. I don't want to put in effort to be top of the boards. I just assumed that because I'm an exceptional human being, I'd just be at the top of the leaderboards for pressing the button a few times. But turns out I suck at Peggle too. Yeah.
I don't want to make excuses. And it kind of sounds like what it was, but my peak competitive Peggle nature was in the first game. The second one, not so much. But if Pete wants to start laying some scores down in the second one, I'll just boot it up for 10 minutes and just clear him out. It's fine.
We shall see, because he's already done it. It's already there. So stay tuned for the Arcadia Roundtable next week, and we'll find out who's top of the board at that point in time. So have you played anything else over the last couple of days or over the last week?
I think I have, mate. I started going to the gym again, and other than Arcadian Roundtable, I have some other bits and bobs that I do on a personal level. I don't think I have actually played anything. Tonight would have been the night that usually Thursdays, No, you ain't ruined it because, to be fair, as much as I want to get Death Stranding done, Deadly's here and I'll chat to him for a bit. So I'll jump in there. I like this show, you know what I mean? Even though, we'll talk about Xbox in a bit, but I still like the show. I like the conversation. So yeah, jumping in here.
Even Gamzly.
Gamzly's he's my little parrot. I'm the pirate. He's the parrot. That's
actually works.
That's how it is.
Sorry, Gamzly.
I was happy to come in here. But hopefully after this, from tomorrow, I can just bang on. I ain't gonna say the other one. I'm gonna bang on with Death Stranding and Peggle 2, it looks like. And then Steam Deck, I got an update from the Steam Deck. It's been received in Prague, and hopefully I should have it back in the next week or so, and then I can do more gaming.
I must say also, I like your t-shirt. Can you give us a little show of the t-shirt?
If we get 50 likes by the end, I'll take this off.
You heard him, chat. Get moving. Get moving. I like that like button.
I won't. The internet we'll get the video get struck down and everything. There's no point.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't either. But that's up to you, Darge. That's up to you. Deadly Headley, what you been playing?
Hello.
Oh no! It's all gone wrong for Deadly Headley. You've frozen, by the way, so you're probably aware of it. But I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3. That's what he sounds like.
Let's just ask you. What have you been playing?
Makes sense, doesn't it, to fill in with that? So Peggle. Yeah. I played Peggle. Obviously, we did the roundtable on Tuesday, and I had a bunch of games. I'm still going through Baldur's Gate 3, which is probably what Deadly Headley will tell us when he returns. I'm playing a bunch of Final Fantasy, but nobody cares about that here on the Xbox Series podcast. So that's taken up a bunch of my time. At the weekend, we did... we always have the Arcadia community gaming sessions on the Sunday, and we did a whole bunch of Rocket League and then Forza. I do have a 2-person solution. Don't need it. He's back. So Forza, I'm brilliant at. I won a race, and that's the only race that counted. So that's going really well. For those that don't know, We're gradually filling up a lobby. It supports 24 people, and I think we had about 14 at the most so far. But we had that going on Sunday, and it's good fun. I race really cleanly, and everyone enjoys it. Deadly Headley, now that you're back,
hey,
talk to me. What have you been playing?
So Shredder's IRL and Baldur's Gate 3, which you were completely correct in assuming. I'm not really sure what keeps happening with the connection. That's like the third time that's happened on this call. If it happens again, I will just knock out and come straight back in.
Yeah, no worries. I do actually have a 2-person overlay. I've figured out what button to press. So if you do drop for a couple of minutes, don't stress. Just come back when you can, and we'll roll with that. So real life shredding was for your birthday. Did you have a good day?
It was good. Yeah, it was really fun. I hadn't been snowboarding in about 5 years, so sort of using a lot of muscles that I'd forgotten how to use. But yeah, it was a good time. I only fell over once, which again, quite proud of considering it had been 5 years since I'd been on a board. So that was good. But yeah, good times.
No lingering pains, no consequences for getting back on.
No more than the usual sort of chronic niggling pains that I deal with day to day. Which is good. I'm relieved by that because I was expecting to be in agony. I'm not going to lie, but we're okay.
Painful Discourse. I see you talking about Gears of War. Gears of War is coming real soon. In fact, if you had been there, what day was it? I think today's Thursday. If you'd been there on Monday, it was an open question. It was who gets most votes between Helldivers and Gears 5, and I was secretly cheering for Gears 5 because I wanted to play some of that, but you weren't there to tip the balance, so we ended up on Helldivers. Gears is still installed, ready to go. There will be some of that. We're going to do some Gears 5, I'm determined. Had it installed for months now, waiting for it. What we're going to do today, for those that haven't already guessed, we'll talk a little bit. There's a couple of topics to go through, but the main one is obviously the Xbox Partner Showcase that happened yesterday. And what we're going to do is go through most of the games that were in it, because that just gives us a little bit to chew on and a little bit to talk about, and it doesn't make much sense to gloss over a lot of it when they're all games that we can look at and talk about, aren't they? So let's get on with the first one. The first game that was shown to open up the showcase. So one of the bigger ones in there, Unknown 9 Awakening. I'm going to pop the trailer on and I'm going to ask Deadly Headley to run us through your thoughts on this if you have any.
It was the first one in the show, so I'm just gonna stall for a moment until the live stream catches up, and then I can refresh my memory on what this one looked like.
Smoothly done. It's only episode 6, and he's handling like a pro. He's got this stalling thing down. He's like, "Oh, I'm not quite caught up on it yet, so I'm going to crash my camera and let Darge take over." Darge.
Yeah, is episode 9 like, is that already IP or something, or is this just a brand new IP? I don't know.
As far as I know, this is an entirely new IP. So there were quite a few of the games in here had accompanying Xbox Wire articles that I should have read but haven't, to be honest. I don't know what this one is in terms of IP. I think it is brand new.
From the reveal, like I remember, like showing here now, there was like sort of going between people and this, that, and the other. I don't know. It's just hard to sort of gauge.
Oh, that's not right.
What's not? Oh, that's not right. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant my opinion. No.
No. Yeah, your opinion's wrong, Dodge. Try again.
It was hard to, for me anyway. It was hard for me to fully, make a decision on. It's just a reveal trailer. You know what I mean? Like I don't remember seeing too much gameplay. It was sort of like flashing between sort of focus shots into sort of other stuff, and I should have probably read the article, but to be fair, it didn't do a lot for me. But that don't mean it's going to be shit. I'm just talking about on the initial showing that they did there. I don't know. There was like, I can't remember. Was she like phasing into other characters and then controlling them to do certain things? That's the kind of vibe that I was getting from it. Is she was sort of possessing other people. So obviously, playing the game, you'll have that element of, getting out of situations and stuff like that. But as far as general impressions go, video game. Like, cool. We'll wait until the next You know, if it shows up in the I can't remember. Was that one of the ones with a 2024 date, or was that like a reveal?
You just had the trailer on. I didn't look at that.
Yeah, I know. I didn't pay. I know there was some 2024 stuff, some Game Pass stuff.
2024, summer 2024.
Yeah, so it's coming out, right? So maybe we see that one more time with a more in-depth gameplay, you know, chunk where you can sort of see how situations play out. But I don't know. Also, some of the visuals, like, just looked a little bit dated. You know what I mean? Like, obviously there was that bit where she's walking up behind that guy with a cane, and he was like blocky in the face and all that. You know. I don't want to sound like the guy who's like, oh yeah, the graphics are shit. It's a shit game, because it's not the be all end all. But you know, I want to see a bit more of that game. Which I reckon
for me,
will do anyway.
Like, I think it looks pretty nice visually in terms of scope and scale. You're right that it's only snippets in a preview.
Yeah.
And I started off really enjoying it because you see this combat and the telekinetic powers and ripping people's souls from their bodies, smashing the scenery, all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, this looks like my kind of game. And then it kind of descends into stealth as it goes, with the possessing people and sneaking around. And as you well know, stealth is for cowards and wankers. I'm not a big stealth player, right? So you get kind of Dishonored vibes in that it's stealth with magical powers rather than just raw stealth, and it might turn out to be really good. The I don't even want to try and guess her ethnicity, but the protagonist is obviously not like middle-aged white guy, which is pertinent in today's conversations, but she looks like interesting enough. I'm not going to go into the whole that side of conversations, but I'm interested in the story that they're trying to tell there. Stealth is for cowards and wankers, though.
Yeah, the Dishonored comparison that you've just done there is a really good one, because that is what it is, isn't it? You know, it's like third person Dishonored. Just on this, you know, because I know Dishonored has a very heavy, loyal fan base who might get really triggered by that comparison. But I'm just saying, just on that reveal, it's kind of like that, but third person. So, yeah, I'd want to see more, personally.
Pete, again, you do this quite frequently. Thank you so much for gifting another membership. It's gone to Chronic, who's already in the Discord server. But yeah, we don't control who they go to, so I'm sure it's still appreciated and can be used. Thank you very much. Support, always appreciated. Deadly Headley.
Hey.
This game. Talk to me about it without crashing. You've had time to process now. You've had time to collect your thoughts. You've had time to script what you want to say, I think. Tell me about it.
Thank you for that. It looks interesting. I think you're right in saying that the Dishonored comparison is quite an interesting one. I get quite a lot of Creed vibes in terms of sort of some of the movement that's been teased and some of the combat to a certain extent. Yeah, I think it looks cool. It didn't jump out to me as like the most exciting game of this show, but it's a nice way to open it.
Well, that was time to script that. That was brief. I was just going to respond. So episode 13, as said, A said no in the chat. And I don't know why. I don't know what that was in response to. Episode 13. Tell me what you're responding to there. What's the no? Am I dying? Do you miss me? Could be the case. I wouldn't necessarily be aware. That's first. Anyway, let's crack on through them, because there's at least, I don't even know how many games were in the showcase, but there's some more. And the next one was fairly interesting as well. So the next one that they showed was a little game called Sleight of Hand, and it's interesting in that the concept is interesting. It's disinteresting in that it's very much just a concept at this point in time. They didn't actually show anything that we can talk about in terms of the gameplay. But Deadly Headley, I'm going to start with you this time. See if you can stay live and tell me what did you think of this one.
See if we can keep the stream intact. Yeah, like you said, it's broadly just a CGI trailer, isn't it? So it's a little bit difficult to tell what the game actually is. They give a brief description of the at the end, with it being a third-person stealth game, I think. Tonally, looks very interesting. It's sort of got that kind of 1920s kind of a lid, slightly steampunky. There's some sort of hints at some witches and some magic cards, and it's sort of, again, yeah, difficult to sort of determine exactly what the game is trying to do. But the art style that's been presented in the trailer is really nice. So interested to see more. But yeah, it's a little bit difficult to draw conclusions. Did we get a date for it? or
we're about to see that it's a hard-boiled third-person stealth sim coming. I just wish list now on that one.
Yeah,
which
hard-boiled is quite a
magical stealth.
I don't really know what they mean by that. That's an interesting terminology to use. Yeah, it looks okay.
I'm just looking at the Xbox Wire article now, and it's just like, it's vague as fuck anyway. It's just like an amazing cinematic trailer, upcoming third-person stealth, so it's an Asa game, of hard-boiled espionage action where you're infiltrating your old witch coven using a cursed deck of cards in the rain-slick city of Taboo. Don't really tell you a lot, you know what I mean? Really.
Does me. I've basically already played the game now, just because you've read that description. Don't need to touch it. I know exactly what that is.
I should have done the voiceover for the actual event, shouldn't I? I'd have had a little bit more enthusiasm than the guy doing it. Well, so, I don't know, it's another one of those games where it's just a concept trailer, right? So, you might be seeing that and going, it's a little bit interesting. And when they actually show you gameplay, you'll go, I didn't imagine it'd be like that. You know what I mean? So, it's just one of those vague, just another reveal trailer, isn't it, for another new game that's coming. It's hard really to say. I mean, I wouldn't even commit to saying anything, if I'm being honest.
Fair enough. If you're here in chat and you've got opinions on these trailers and games that we're talking about, then yell them at the top of your voice. We won't hear you. When we don't hear you, yes, you are. When we don't hear you, use your keyboard. Type it into the YouTube chat, and then we can read your thoughts. Well, it's more effective than the yelling at the screen. I do recommend that you try both, though. There will be, at some point in the show, the Q&A box will appear. So if you've got questions for us to get at the end of the show, be it about the topics or about anything else, then stick them in there, and we'll get to a few of them at the end. We're going to move on to the next trailer with all of the Yans. This one, there's quite a bit to kind of delve into here. Let's start with Dodge.
Altars?
The one with the altars. That's not the whole title, is it? But I've forgotten the title.
We was talking in the Discord last night about this, and I was like saying, I'm sure I've seen this game before. It's just like the first reveal of it, and it weren't. It was 2 years ago at the PC Gamer Show. I see it, but obviously this trailer was a lot more in depth, and obviously it's me, so I'm watching it, and I had a lot of intrigue, like every time you could clone another character that had a different outcome, and it all goes towards this, big, like, little, fucking greenhouse type thing that you're living in, and this little environment and all this, and but as the trailer went on, I was like, do you know what I mean? It's sometimes, like, for me anyway, like with a trailer, you can overdo it. Do you know what I mean? Where you can get a little bit like, okay, like, I get it, and you're going on a bit, But it is a game that I'm very interested in. It's doing some weird stuff, and I'd like to see more and see how it plays out. I mean, I'm sure they said with certain games, if you'd have gone to Xbox Wire or something, they would have done a more in-depth showing of certain things, which maybe I should do my work and actually have a little look at some of them. But
not work.
This one, it has interested me. I'd like to see how it works, how it pans out. Looks good. Like, it's a good looking game as well. So it's another survival type game as well, and it's got survival elements in it, I think, as well, which seems to be a hot trend right now. So
it's a strange one because
that is this year, isn't it? This one.
Yeah,
I'm sure this one's.
Wait until the end of the trailer and it'll tell me. It's weird because the trailer opens and it starts off looking like almost a Death Stranding, like a third person carrying a massive backpack, walking along, dangerous but sparse, post-apocalyptic looking environments, quite foreign environments, and then it goes into the actual base management that makes it look more like the base management in a game like XCOM or something. Like, it's just divided up into these rooms, and you can see the way that you're going to expand it and put these little guys to work. But the unusual choice, and I can't decide if it's going to like pay off really well or be a disaster, is that every character that you recruit is a version of yourself, of Jan, the character. So it's got some, you go out in the world, you get your resource, and you pull a version of you from the timeline that made a different decision in your past, which makes for weird conversational dynamics and weird like nature versus nurture considerations in how they build the character interactions and relationships, and managing those relationships is supposed to be a big part of it. I don't know what the kind of divide is between walking around in a spacesuit and managing your clones is going to be. There's a lot of questions, but everything about the concept, the look of it, the whole game looks polished and looks intriguing. Deadly Headley, is this your kind of game? Are you going to play it? Did you enjoy the trailer?
So half of it looks like my kind of game, the other half doesn't, but overall I'm really, really interested in this one, and brownie points to Xbox as well because it's dropping straight into Game Pass, so that's very exciting. The Alters All By Myself is the full title at the end of the trailer, but yeah, I think generally it just seems to be referred to as The Alters. But yeah, I think this is a really great concept, and I'm really looking forward to sort of delving into that and finding out a little bit more about it.
Which half
like you said,
like?
the whether it's open world or not, because we don't know. I'm kind of getting that impression, but again, up for debate. The exploration side looks really interesting. The management sim side is the bit that I find a little bit off-putting, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to try it. I love that the people that you're managing are, like you've said, clones of yourselves, and some of the examples that they give are they're clones that have made different decisions to what your character has done in their life. So sort of one's dealing with like the fallout of a failed marriage, the other one is dealing with I think I've forgotten some of the examples, but let's say like someone takes a job that you decided not to take, or you went on a trip that, you know, the real you, quote unquote, didn't decide to go on. I think that's quite an interesting dynamic. Maybe we'll end up with I think they've sort of hinted that each clone has kind of like a mood and expectations that need managing. Some of them can get quite volatile depending on who else they're with. It feels like there's a lot of variables there, and I think I'd be quite interested to know how much control the player has over which clones come in, or if that part is scripted. That would be quite interesting, because potentially different players may end up with different experiences. I think it's a really cool idea. It's a really cool concept. And like you said as well, visually it looks really, really nice. It's sort of, I get a lot of like Death Stranding vibes from it in some respects, just in terms of how the lighting and the environment is presented. But yeah, it looks gorgeous. It's a really interesting concept. I've not seen anything like that attempted in a video game before. It's, you know, if you sold me that plot in a movie, I'd go and watch it. So yeah, I'm up for it for sure.
It's funny because because every character that you see in it is essentially going to be the same guy. He's the only character in it, the same actor, and each version has like drastically different hair, so that you can tell them apart. Which is funny in itself. Like, oh, I went to college, so I've got short hair. I got a different job, so I've got a beard or whatever. Is okay. I'm sure that's a way to define them and distinguish them. But you've also got, they're all the same person, which means it's one voice actor doing all of the conversations. And it means if they did it like naturally, it would actually be really weird on the ears to hear the same voice going back and forth, to actually like separate who's talking when, who's saying what. So they're giving some of them like a slightly deeper voice. But you know, in that situation, you got all of these people that are all Jan, and one of them's putting on a deep voice, and the rest of them are just going to be looking at you like, you're a bit of a prick, aren't you? Because
one of them was a heavy smoker for a while, the other one wasn't. That's there's headcanon there that can make sense of it, I'm sure.
A bit of extra social awkwardness though, to have that read on the person and know, like, not real, is it? I know, because I'm also you.
It's also like the like, obviously with the voices being different and all that, obviously like the other Yans that you play, like the guy with the proper screw face, angry guy, like that same voice actor has got a voice. So even though it's just the same person, it's going to be angry Yan, happy Yan, you know, fucking a little bit pissed off. Like, do you know what I mean? So that's why I guess there's little tonal changes in the voices. But yeah, it's good. Like, look, at the end of the day, it's a new concept. So it's good to see new things being tried. And yeah, like it's going into Game Pass, so it's good for the dev team, you know, because they've already got a little bag sorted, and hopefully it just sort of takes off, you know. But we'll have to wait and see.
That we will, and there's quite a few games in this showcase that fit that. It's good to see something unusual kind of vibe. There are a load of them. Are there any canned yans? I don't know, Patrick. Probably. Maybe that's up to you when you play it. We're going to do the next trailer, and I didn't particularly enjoy this one. I don't know if either of you are going to feel any different on it, but it's the Creatures of Ava, or Ava, or I say Ava because of the similarities with my name, but I don't actually know the correct pronunciation for this one. Pastel-coloured animal rescue photography game of some kind.
I actually quite like the look of this one. I think the art style right off the bat is the thing that interested me the most. I get a lot of Everwild vibes, which is interesting to see, like an Everwild-esque game, considering we know nothing about Everwild whatsoever.
Oh, yeah.
An interesting tidbit. Story was created by Rhianna Pratchett, which is the daughter of Terry Pratchett. Or the late Terry Pratchett, we should say. So quite an interesting little nugget of information there that I mean, you know, if she's inherited any of her storytelling talents from her father, then it's probably going to be pretty good.
I'm more intrigued. It wasn't clear from the trailer that there even is a story, so
she might not have inherited them, though, and it could be a shit story. We never know.
We'll find out. I don't actually know any of the work that she's done, to be fair. I haven't looked into that. I probably should have done before the show, but we are where we are. But yeah, I think it looks nice. Again, not typically my kind of game, but it is one that I'm going to pick up and play. It does look quite interesting. Some of the gameplay mechanics that we're seeing on screen now as well. Sort of feels quite diverse. It's not necessarily just we're going to look after animals, and that's the whole point.
Replicant has just said that Rhianna Pratchett wrote the Tomb Raider reboot. The Tomb Raider reboot is freaking awesome in terms of storytelling and character development.
What is in the new games? Or not new, but
the 2013
the
reboot.
Reboot. Crystal.
Fair play. Yeah, they were great.
Yeah.
They were really,
good
really
fact.
good. Nice, yeah, very good fact. Thank you, Replicant.
So now that game is like high on my list.
Quite a lot of, yeah.
Guys, what did you think of it?
You know what? Even though I see a lot of people on Twitter telling me this was a 9 out of 10 showcase, I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't even remember this one, and I've watched your footage. It looked like grounded type art style, didn't it? You know what I mean? Like that sort of vibe, but no. It looked more like grounded than.
To be fair, I didn't think it looked much like Everwild either. So I'm in between the two.
Yeah, well,
halfway between those.
All right, you're being silly, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Nah, not for me. This next for me. It's just
Daz, you're gonna hold you to that. The next one is just for you.
That game is also dropping into Game Pass as well, so that's another Game Pass title that we can look forward to.
Yes.
At Dodge's request, here is Roblox. Roblox, one of the biggest games in the world. Show some enthusiasm. Come on, chaps. Was
I expect to see like a horror theme come into Roblox. I mean, I've never touched Roblox. I am not familiar with Roblox whatsoever. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see it to bring a horror theme to the table. But we are where we are. What are your thoughts on Roblox, guys?
There's actually quite a lot. So Roblox, for one thing, it's predominantly very much a child's game, inhabited by mostly children and people that want to be near children for reasons unknown. So I don't know if any of them even know who Chucky is. well, yeah, awkward. I don't know if any of them even know who Chucky is, for one thing. I
know.
It's also Roblox is notorious for not respecting like IP and licensing at all whatsoever. So if you have this Chucky license, it's a strange place to put it for multiple reasons. I wouldn't be surprised if there's already despite nobody knowing the character, at least 17 different Chucky games on Roblox somewhere in its depths, like, to be unearthed. And there's no way in hell that I'm going to touch that thing. Are either of you enticed to try Roblox now that you've seen that? And isn't it interesting that it is at an Xbox like official partner showcase?
Yeah, I said in the Discord like a little while before I come live, obviously the whole 9 out of 10, look, at the end of the day, like, you get what you want to get from something. If there's a 9 out of 10 for you, that's fine. Yeah, but this thing instantly gets it an 8 at top level, the fact that they're even showing this. I know it's a partner preview, you know what I mean? But come on. Like, that's just a YouTube video on its own by the developer of Roblox or something. They can just do, I understand why they did it. You know what I mean? Because it's a Microsoft partner, it's more eyes, and this, that, and the other. But nah, mate, when I see it, I was just like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? I've never touched, to be fair, I've never touched Minecraft either. But I get it. Like, my daughter, she's 13. She loves a bit of Roblox. You know what I mean? She's always pestering me for Robux and whatever else.
No.
Yeah, I know.
So, a couple of things from chat there. Patrick, agree with you entirely. Like, horror is actually quite big on Roblox because it has that whole, it's not actually scary, but children are engaging with like baby's first horror, and it is massive, and this probably will do really well despite looking terrible. So you're right on there. And Dr. Scottsy is such a fan of Chucky that he's going to try Roblox. Don't do it, Scottsy. Just steer clear.
I mean, I was gonna when you say about IP and Roblox are well loose with that stuff anyway, and the fact that they've got the official. I'm with Dr. Scottsy, you know what I mean? The original Child's Play films, even The Bride of Chucky, you know what I mean? Like, I watched them films and got enjoyment out of them, but I think we can all sort of agree the weight of Chucky's IP value it's not what it was, you know what I mean? So the fact that Roblox have got the licensing for this means, because they, it's a successful game, it's not like they're skint. Like they could go and do IP if they want to do IP. It's probably more a case that they may have been offered to put this in the game, to try and raise the character's profile, right? I think they just put a new TV series out in the States on maybe Sci-Fi. Yeah, they're trying to. I think Mark Hamill might be doing the voice now, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, maybe it's the IP owners. I don't know if it's Paramount or someone like that. Maybe they want to raise the Chucky character's profile, and they've put it into Roblox, for the youth. But yeah, the old boomerang's back.
Yeah, do either of you? He's not quite here. He's on his way back. He's keeping me on my toes with the changing of the cameras. Daj, do you ever play like the other kind of asymmetrical horror games? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre or
I've not like the Dead by Daylights and
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, nah. I mean, that Dead by Daylight. I mean, my nephew, he's like, well, I think he's about 17 now, but he was all over that about 2 years ago, and I watched him play it, and I was like, what's the vibe in this game? And he was like, oh, you got to survive. Yeah, and I looked at the game and it just looked gash, and I was like, that game looks terrible. Do you know what I mean? But it done well, you know what I mean? But no, there ain't no horror. If I play a horror game, it would be, a story-driven sort of, like a Resident Evil, or something like The Evil Within or something. But as for those, I think actually, I might be lying. I think did Friday the 13th or something go into Game Pass at one time? Because I feel like I did maybe
Texas
play
Chainsaw Massacre is.
I think it was definitely Friday the 13th in the camp.
Might have done.
Like on the campsite. But anyway, one or two games of that, you camp, what do you call campers? Half my brain just fucking farted. Yeah, but that type of game, like one or two rounds of it, and then I was like, oh, this is boring now. So, but that's me,
So, I don't like stealth games, I don't like asymmetrical multiplayer, and I don't like Roblox. I don't know why we spent so long talking about this one. Let's move on to the Sinking City 2, eh? Trailer's going to play now.
One.
Yeah, Cthulhu,
This
weird
one-
mishmash of horror. Did either of you play the first Sinking City?
No,
Oh, I played like 2 hours of it.
I heard it was good.
It was supposed to be quite good, but it was quite a slow-paced, like detective kind of game, and I don't know what stopped me carrying on with it. It definitely didn't grip me massively, but this one starts with like someone's done an AI prompt for realistic Murlocs, and this is like how the trailer opens up. So I was watching it going, what? And then it shifts between all these different kinds of horror that are kind of disconnected from each other. And I was kind of disinterested, and then I saw what it was, and the whole Cthulhu thing linking them all, and the insanity vibes that kind of implies, and it all suddenly like came together and made some sense. So maybe it's good. I hated the dialogue. Is that right, Tony? It might have been because the dialogue just wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. I'm quite fussy on that kind of thing. Evening, Fonz. Hope you're well. Not getting robbed. Fonz gets robbed an awful lot, unfortunately.
Yeah. Killer. Well, this one proper. I actually like this one, and I know it's just a CG like reveal sort of thing. But yeah, I see say it on the poster art at the end of the game. You'll see it when it says about when it's coming, and the gateway in front of the guy. I swear it says Arkham something. So then I was in the Discord going, yeah. So I was like, is this tied in with Batman or something? Like, do you know what I mean? Because I'd never played the previous game, and then someone was like, oh no, that might be a coincidence. But
I think it is. I did exactly the same thing, Dodge.
just coincidentally there, like, you know. I
think so.
I think so. But it's it did its job for a CG trailer. You know, I am interested to know more about this game. You know what I mean? I think this might be one of the ones that they did after the presentation. I think there's a further little bit of this, so I'll maybe have to go and find that. You know, but yeah, I'll definitely like the vibe of this one. You know what I mean? I don't know that without playing the second one. I mean, does it say in the blog post there kind of what it is? Is it a third-person action game? Is it?
I wouldn't. The first one definitely wasn't an action game. Very much a slow-paced detective discovery kind of game. Yeah, I can't actually remember if there were any action sequences at all. Did either of you play Persona?
No.
I am not a JRPG guy at all, or an anime guy. It's sort of like a double whammy no for me.
Yeah.
No, so I like Japanese RPGs. I don't overly like it when they're set in high schools, which half of them are. The Persona games are massively stylish, though, and I probably will get to 3 at some point. But the thing that I was going to pick out of this one, though, rather than the game itself, is it's quite unusual that the DLC, the expansion pass, is included with Game Pass Ultimate, and not the normal Game Pass tier. And it's not entirely new because Gears of War Hivebusters was available in Ultimate, but that, I think, unless I'm missing something, was the only example where they had done that, where they'd done any kind of content that was exclusive to the Ultimate tier. Oh, Deadly Headley, keeping me going.
We're back.
How do you feel about that? Do you like extra content being an Ultimate perk?
I think they're like I say, without knowing the previous history of it all, like yourself, like as you said, I think they'd be like Ubisoft do a similar thing, right? So it's like if you get like you know, I can never remember the name of the fucking service that I'm subscribed to, but whatever it is, Uplay, we'll just call it that. So you have Uplay where you get the game, but then if you've got Uplay Plus or Pro or whatever it is, you get all the expansion content and everything else. So it's a
bit different because they do have tiers in the Ubisoft service, but that's like the premium tier gives you the day one games and they give you the best version of those games, and it's massively expensive as a result. The lower tier doesn't include day one games at all, though, so it's not that parallel to Game Pass in that way. Yeah.
So you think that Xbox's MO going forward is expansions on base games will be an Ultimate perk?
Potentially. I mean, how would you feel about that? Would that make Ultimate worth?
I don't care
You're
about
a PC
Persona.
gamer mostly, aren't you? So what tier of Game Pass have you got at the moment? Don't label you, but what tier of Game Pass have you got?
I've actually still got Ultimate. Like I don't cloud stream. I don't have a console anymore, but I've still got Ultimate just because I'm just still doing my bit for the green
You're
team.
a mug like me.
You know
just keep subscriptions going. Yeah.
Well, that's more like it. But I just wanted to get on the good side of episode 13. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm just fucking. Like I said last night. You know, subscription models. Yeah, this is what they want. People like me. Yeah, so Assassin's Creed Mirage. I thought, oh, I'm really intrigued to give this a go. And then Prince of Persia's coming up, The Lost Crown or whatever. So I subscribed, got Mirage day one, went into it, gave it, 8 to 10 hours, weren't really for me. So I ended up dropping it. Never ended up playing Prince of Persia with my subscription that was still running. Skull and Bones, I've got that installed, played that for about an hour, something like that. I've never gone back to it. And I worked out it's been about 5 months. So whatever that is, if that's £15, that's over 60 quid. That's one of them games already paid for. So that's why the subscription model, that's what they want. They want people like me, like Asa, and that's why Xbox's roadmap is so important, because if they can get 4 first-party titles, we spoke to Eradication last night, and he was kind of like, after this showcase, he was like, I don't really know, like a lot of this, what they're offering isn't really for me. But then Xbox can go, well, we got Hellblade coming in a couple of months. And then you'll naturally go, oh, well, I'll wait for that. And then you'll wait for that, and you just keep turning money over, So that's why they're chasing the subscription model, But the ultimate, just going back to the Persona 3 thing, obviously it doesn't bother me at all, really. I mean, as long as you got to keep it consistent. Yeah, you can't do one thing for one game and then something different for another. Maybe with the first party,
definitely not going to be consistent. Promise you, it's not going to be consistent.
Third party consistency. If the first party, they want to just throw that in the baseline, Game Pass when the expansion launch is there day one, whatever they're doing, but they have to be consistent, because if they're going to hit you up the ribs for this Persona, which maybe it's doing really well and it's moved the needle slightly for them since it went in there, and they've gone, let's utilise this. But then when the next game comes out and they don't do it, then as a consumer, you're going to start going, well, what's actually going on? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's my take.
It's definitely third-party like expansion and DLC content being on there is definitely not going to be consistent. There's no way that it kind of could be, because DLC and content plans are different from game to game and publisher to publisher. So it might make sense for Persona, but it wouldn't make sense for someone who's doing like a Shadow of the Erdtree style expansion, like a huge thing. There's going to be differences there. But Deadly Headley, what tier of Game Pass have you got at the moment?
Ultimate. I do make the most of it despite not having a PC. And I think if I did have a PC, I'd still be using Game Pass Ultimate, because I'd probably still play console, but I do also cloud stream occasionally as well. And I think actually it is an issue that I have with Xbox to a certain degree, because I don't like the fact that we still, as console players, have to pay to play online. It feels like a really sort of dated practice. And I think that is partly the reason why I'm
That's a shame. Yeah, so real important to tell us there. He'll be back in a second. Here he comes. I'm just going to pause. He's going to come back. He's going to resume mid-sentence.
Oh.
No. Who's in charge of the gaming Arcadia bot? What? Malfunctioning Eddie? He's in charge of himself. He's an AI, episode 13. He's got free will. Sentient being.
He upset you, episode 13. Did you say Game Pass was unsustainable?
Oh no, don't ask him. Don't ask him, episode 13. It's not worth it. You'll have a massive falling out in our Discord server.
Oh, with a bot. Oh, shit.
I'm lost. Let's do.
Poor Deadly.
We'll get back to episode 13 when he rejoins. Not episode 13. Deadly Headley when he rejoins, which I'm sure he will. I'm going to bring up the next trailer while we wait. There's a few more that are worth having a look at. Not too many. I'm not going to do every single one, but we're going to have a look at the first Berserker, Khazan, whatever you want to call it. And we're not going to look at it because I don't want to bring the trailer up. Dodge, what did you think of that one? Is that your kind of game? Are you a Souls player?
Well,
You like a
No,
parry?
no, I'm terrible at Souls. Yeah, like absolute dog shit at Souls. But this game, I mean, obviously, Lies of P. Quite a ways through that actually. Funnily enough, and I'm enjoying that until I got to this actual boss that I'm at in a minute and got smashed. But this game really looks good. Like it, because they had was it Wolong, the Team Ninja
That's a
game that
game.
came into Game Pass.
Mhm.
Yeah, they had that, and it was like Sekiro-ish looking, But this game, what I like about this game is it's got like the Souls like combat and stuff like that. But the art style, I really like the art style. You know what I mean? Like it was like almost, anime or hentai or whatever you fucking call that.
Hentai.
Yeah, I don't do any of this shit.
Not what they're showing in the trailer, but who knows what we've not seen yet,
Get good. Yeah, I haven't got time to get good, Replicant. I have 2 hours at max a night if I'm lucky. So I'll just give you my login details and you beat the game for me. Yeah, so anyway, like I say, it looked really good. I mean, the actual showing of the game, before we came on, I rewatched the trailer just to see if it was an issue with the broadcast of the game, because it does look, in areas, the performance looks a little bit like scatty, you know what I mean? Like a bit stuttering there. Don't know if that was just, poor showing.
Can't
remember when this.
All right.
No. Yeah, no. I'm not gonna. But what I'm saying is, even with that, it looked really, really good. I can't remember when it's coming, but I'll probably give it a go for about an hour and then decide I'm not good enough and uninstall it.
I'm less sold on the art style than you. Like I don't see the characters fitting into the environments quite right. I don't know. There's something slightly off about it. The environments, the characters are very like cel shaded, animated, and the environments are part that and part realistic, and they just don't quite blend to me. But this is just like my eyes being fussy. I'm not sure if there's any truth to that. Deadly Headley, you've got good eyes for art and stuff. What do you think of this game and the looks of it?
I'm not massively keen on the art style, but the particular enemy that's on screen now, the dragon thing, when that was first introduced, that looked really, really cool. But the main character's art style, it doesn't feel like it's in keeping with the rest of the world. But the environmental art and the visual work that's gone into that looks really nice. The frame rate is very chunky. Not liking that, but I'm assuming it's just an early build, and hopefully we'll see that better optimized. Gameplay wise, looks very interesting. Apologies that I keep on dropping out, by the way. I've updated Discord and hopefully that sort of fixes things, but it just keeps on crashing on me. It's been quite weird today. I was very quickly just going to circle back to the Game Pass thing, because there was something that I wanted to bring up regarding ultimate perks and things like DLC or expansions. So I can see Xbox keeping the strategy that it has done for games like Starfield and Forza Horizon 5, where they've done that sort of that early access upgrade for what, 30 quid or something like that. And actually shout out to Fons, because he was in the chat. I'm pretty sure it was him and Hargeet that talked about this on their show.
Sorry, I'm laughing because I just seen what Dad just put in chat while you were talking. He's just googled hentai. You don't Dad, that's a mistake. Sorry,
I was just trying to fit in. I was just trying to fit in with all the Japanese art culture stuff.
Oh,
I'm just going to stay quiet. I'm going to go for a quick smoke. I'll be back in a sec.
That's funny. Asa's fucked if I drop out now, by the way, Dodge.
I'll be all right.
One man show. So yeah, I think that we've seen a bit of a pattern with Xbox with some of its first party titles, where it's sort of gone, we'll give you early access and some extra content for this money, and conveniently that adds up to round about $100 in terms of what you're being charged for a game, which seems to be where I think the AAA industry would like to go, but getting a consumer to swallow that pill isn't necessarily very easy to do. But when you start adding in a little bit more content and some early access, and you give the user those incentives, they suddenly become a lot more appealing, and you're more willing to spend the money. With third-party titles, I actually think that adding extra content into Game Pass Ultimate is quite a clever move. I think it gives you that incentive to stay within the subscription service. I think Dodge, you.
Oh, look at that! It's half through half of that away.
For those that
absolute nightmare. I'm back. I don't know why this keeps happening. This is crazy. Sorry, chat, because I appreciate this is probably quite disruptive. So in regards to user retention and subscriber retention, the thing that Xbox really needs to achieve is just that consistent cadence of content, and I think that's going to be the thing that will help grow the subscriber base and keep people retained on the service. So adding those additional incentives into Ultimate, like the extra content that you get as part of Persona 3, for example, I think is quite a clever move. The other thing, and we'll probably end up circling back to this, but it was I actually learnt this on Xbox Era's podcast earlier today, because they've started doing a new show called Highlight.
Gone. So while Deadly Headley is recovering, for those that are listening on our podcasting service or all the rest of it, you won't have seen any of this. But what happened was, Dodge typed into the chat, "I've just googled hentai." Then he types into the chat, "I'm going to go and have a cigarette," and he just left the room. So make of that what you will. Doesn't smoke, by the way.
I bought a vape for Tuesday because I thought I don't want to get caught up in that, and this thing was killing me on Tuesday. Not like a cigarette wouldn't, no. You know what I mean?
And Deadly Headley keeps on disconnecting. He's crashed again. This time, not smiling. Previous crashes, he'd managed to pause on a flattering frame, but this time, afraid not. And
so that time, I actually wasn't aware that I had crashed, because I could still hear you and I could still talk, but apparently just couldn't be heard. And I didn't realize that it had frozen on the stream. This is chaos. Like, this is what happens when Gamzly leaves us. Like, don't do this again, man. Come on. It's not on. Everything falls apart when Gamzly goes. This is just. I hope you're happy, Gamzly. I really do. I mean that sincerely. I know it sounded passive aggressive, but I love you, bro. So the other thing that I was going to say, this was something that I learned from Xbox Era earlier today. Jesse pointed this out actually on Xbox Era's highlight show. Final Fantasy 14 has got an access pass or something like that you can get as part of Game Pass Ultimate.
Got again. He tried.
This is a fucking nightmare. This is awful. Right. There is Ultimate subscriber with Final Fantasy 14. If you redeem that pass or content pass, whatever it is, you then can't enjoy the free version of the game. So apparently you're supposed to play the free version until you get to the point where it's not really free anymore. And then you can redeem whatever you get with Game Pass Ultimate, and make the most out of that. Because if you redeem your Ultimate reward too soon, you then can't play it for free. Little public service announcement. I've probably butchered that a little bit because I don't really know Final Fantasy 14, but if you know what Final Fantasy 14 is and how its monetization model works, then
he's gone again. So I'm sure he will be right back. Yeah, here he comes. Go on, Dodge.
I personally, on the Final Fantasy 14, as you know from Tuesday nights, I don't really play Final Fantasies too much. This is the MMO, right? Is this what this is? Yeah. I see Replicant. I mean, he's a well rational human being, and I agree with him. You know, whoever likes or wanted that game, hopefully it does well on Xbox. You know what I mean? And people get what they wanted. But as for the add-on Game Passy business, I don't really have a care about it. If I'm being honest with you.
Fair enough. I like it because it's one less thing to have to pay for if I do want it. So no complaints. Deadly Headley, I'm going to move on to the next game and assume that you're going to be disconnecting again any second now. But we got a couple more to cover and then one more topic to get into. So Tales of Kenzera. I'm probably saying that entirely wrong. Zao. The Metroidvania that looks like it plays an awful lot like Ori, but is styled quite differently. And the developer was an actor of some kind, and this game is born of his grief after losing his father in real life. But it looks very accomplished. It looks like a very good game. Have you seen this trailer? What do you think of it?
I like it.
It looks nice. That's my contribution. Dodge, your turn.
No, I just I really like it. I mean, I know I didn't play the Prince of Persia, Lost Crown or whatever that game was called, but it gives me that vibe. And obviously, I played the Ori games as well. Like these sort of Metroidvania platformer games are definitely a bit of me. I remember that guy came out on the VGAs, wasn't it? I think that's when he announced the game and the actor and stuff like that. And it showed really well there. And Patrick, beautiful Patrick from the community, he played one of the early builds of the game in the Steam Next event. He got to play a little bit of this, and he actually did have a bug at one point. But other than that, it's a safe bet. You know what I mean? Is it a Game Pass? I don't think is it Game Pass, this one?
Oh, don't ask me questions. I don't bloody know.
I don't think Zao is
it's EA, so if anything, it will show up in Game Pass a year after release.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not showing that. But even still, it's going to be like what, you know, a $20, $25, $30 game at a fault or something like that. You know what I mean?
Apparently, there's a playable demo available. I'm not sure where, though. I don't know if it's on Xbox or just PC. I'm not sure.
So there was a playable demo in the Steam Next Fest thing. I don't know if it's still available anywhere else. That was it. They had temporary demos during Next Fest. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it'll do well. I think the game. I think well. I mean, EA are behind it, you know what I mean? So let's define well, you know what I mean? But it might do well for the guy who's, whose heart and soul has gone into the game, you know what I mean? But it might not do well for EA. But I think it'll be a good game. And we need more games of this type, I think, as well.
Metroidvanias, I disagree. I think we need less of them.
Oh, okay.
I like the look of the movement and combat mechanics and puzzle solving all looks good to me, but I don't like retreading paths, which is kind of central to Metroidvania. It's what makes them Metroidvania, I guess. I'd much rather it was linear and it was just a platformer. I'd have more fun with that. I don't like trying to remember where I saw a blue door that I'm going to have to get through when I've got the right power to open blue doors later. No, just let me go from left to right, constantly left, right, solve my puzzles, do my jumping, and then I'm happy. But
I love
one more game.
Well,
You love a platformer as well. Good.
Yeah.
Episode 13, I do not lie. I mean, I frequently do lie, but never... is it never malicious? Sometimes it's malicious. No, I do. Yeah, it's fine. Last game that we're going to do. Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess. Closing trailer of the show. So relatively big. Capcom are obviously a big partner and a partner that is on fire. And this game is a little bit unusual. Deadly Headley, while you're still with us, what did you think of it?
Oh.
I think this looks really interesting.
It was worth a try. It was worth trying.
I know. So I remember when they announced this. Was it the Xbox Summer event that they showcased the new Capcom game, or did Xbox have a? No, it wasn't a developer direct.
I don't remember which event, but they showed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the summer. Anyway, it was a new Capcom IP and or not IP, but new entry and blah 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 blah. So like you said, Capcom are you know, they're hot stuff right now. You know what I mean? Everything they're touching is really good. Obviously, Dragon's Dogma, just can't wait for that. But this one, I watched it, and I'm not like saying no to the game, but it just looks fucking so off key. Like, I couldn't get a full gauge on what was actually going on. Do you know what I mean? I think, I can't remember if this was another one that they were saying there was an extended thing after. I'll have to have a look into it. But I'll keep my eye on it. It looks visually, it looks incredible, like what it's doing. But I couldn't quite keep up with what was actually happening. Do you know what I mean? And I'm one of those people, you need to hold my hand. Yeah, because if you don't hold my hand, I'm just going to go missing. So, yeah, we'll wait and see what happens. I ain't dismissive of the game. I just think I still don't fully understand what's happening, but it looks really, really good looking.
Do you know, on Deadly Headley, as we're here talking and you're currently connected, so far, every time that you've disconnected has been while you were talking. So just dip into your voice and audio settings and disable all the weird processing that Discord does. Because now that people mentioned it, you're not crashing when you're not talking. So it could be that it's something in there. Disable everything fancy and advanced and see if we can keep you connected. As for the game that we're watching right now, you're right. It's when you said earlier, I can't remember what game was on, but you said it was nice to see things that are different, trying something unusual and putting a game out there. This game very much sits in that category because Capcom obviously know how to make a polished AAA game, be it horror or otherwise. They can make cinematic games very, very well, very, very nicely and very, very successfully. And they've obviously got Dragon's Dogma 2 coming up, which looks freaking phenomenal, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. This one looks weird in the kind of way that it's the kind of game that the industry almost shied away from for a little while and seems to hopefully be gravitating back towards. I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. I don't think anybody really knows if they're going to like it or not, because a trailer where you go around with a feather duster trying to polish off demons or whatever, everything about it is strange, but I really appreciate that everything about it is strange. And they describe it as a part action, part real-time strategy game. And the depth of the strategy, or whether it's like a kind of tower defense thing, or basically everything about this game, it's just weird right now. And I don't know enough about it to know if it's going to be fun. But this one is coming to Game Pass, and I'm absolutely going to try it. Even if they review it and they say that this is 2 out of 10, the worst thing I've ever played. It's weird, and I want to try it and make my own mind up. So that's a positive. Deadly Headley, try and talk to us.
Fingers crossed. Hold on to your butts. I've turned all the crazy shit off.
If I hold on to my butt, people can see my Xbox Series t-shirt. It's a good advice.
Shameless plugging. It's not. This game isn't typically my kind of thing, but I will try it. Visually, it looks very pretty. Like you've said, there's a lot going on. It's sort of doing a lot. Again, it not being my type of game, but it coming into Game Pass is great because it means that I will try it, and you know, if I like it, I'll keep playing it. And if I don't like it, that's fine. I can just uninstall it because Game Pass is great like that. It's good to see that we've got a title from Capcom dropping straight into Game Pass, because I think clearly Microsoft and Capcom are sort of focusing on the relationship that they have, because this is the second time we've seen Capcom at a partner event? They weren't on the
second time we've seen this particular game.
Was Exo Primal a day one Game Pass game?
It was, yeah.
It was.
That's Capcom as well, but yeah, I know what you're saying though, Deadly. It's good to see them making relationships. That's what you're alluding to as well. But carry on, mate. Sorry.
No, that was about it. To be fair, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's good to see him. It's good to see him doing more with Eastern publishers. You know what I mean? Even as someone like me, I'm not really a big Eastern, like Japanese game player. Do you know what I mean? But the fact, again, like the overall variety that they need to expand upon, like differing game types and publishers. You know what I mean? Especially in Game Pass. So it's good to see them making inroads.
It is, and it's a nice use of Game Pass. If Capcom are making these games, these weirder games like your Exo Primal and Path of the Goddess, if they're making these games because Game Pass is mitigating some of that risk, then that's the service doing wonders. Like that's what I want to see Microsoft doing. If you're going to throw some money around, make some games real that otherwise wouldn't have been, and everybody wins, don't they? So loving that. Speaking of Capcom though, let's talk a little bit about Dragon's Dogma 2. So we're moving on from the partner showcase now and talking about Dragon's Dogma 2 because there've been hands-on previews of that game over the last week or so. None of us have played it. But from what I gather, the hands-on previews, everyone that has played it has been playing an early build of the PlayStation 5 version. And there have been concerns over the frame rate because the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series console are targeting an unlocked 30 frames per second, which is unconventional. So obviously there's a lot of noise around the difference between 60 and 30, but an uncapped 30 is a little bit different. It means rather than syncing up to a normal TV's refresh rate, they're going to let it run a little bit wild, and it's going to introduce a bit of stutter and maybe even some screen tearing as we go. It still looks freaking phenomenal, and everyone that has played it has come away saying, yeah, this is freaking phenomenal. Deadly Headley, you're a console guy. What are your thoughts on what we've heard about the Dragon's Dogma 2 previews, be it performance or gameplay or otherwise?
Gameplay wise, I'm interested. It looks like a good game and it looks like a fun game. Frame rate wise, quite hesitant in that regard, because it looks like actually you kind of need to have quite a responsive experience, whereas with something like Starfield, it sort of, the combat felt manageable enough at 30 for it not really to be an issue. I don't get that same impression with Dragon's Dogma because it looks a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more sort of reflex-based.
I actually think it probably would go the other way and say that Starfield was needed to be more responsive, being predominantly first-person shooter. Obviously, you could play in third, but predominantly a shooting game. But question for you then, because you say that you're hesitant, Dragon's Dogma 2 is not dropping in any subscription service, so your hesitation could be the difference between I presume it's like 70 quid purchase or leaving it on the pile somewhere. What are your thoughts on it at the moment? Are you thinking it's one you're going to need to get, or are you waiting?
I will wait until the full release and see how it's received on Xbox Series X, and how it performs, and then make a decision there. Yeah, it's a tricky one because again, like we've talked about this before, in 2024's economy in the Western world is challenging, and a 70 quid ask feels a little bit steep sometimes if we're being brutally honest with how many games are out there and how many games we might want to play. And what I like about Game Pass is that it sort of takes some of the pressure out of that decision making. I haven't played the first Dragon's Dogma, so again, that kind of doesn't really help with me making my mind up as to whether or not I'll take the plunge. But there's a lot of hype around it. What I have seen gameplay wise does look really great. Again, performance and experience is something that I'm skeptical of. I don't know. It's a tricky one. I would really like to play. I'd like to play everything in a performance mode, and it's frustrating that we can't. I do really want to build a PC, but it's not something that's going to happen this year. Partly because my partner and I are planning a big trip that is expensive, and that's more important to me right now than building a PC. But at some point that will change. It is what it is. It's just console life, isn't it?
For me, so I do have the PC option and I'm likely to use it for Dragon's Dogma, but if I didn't have that available, Dragon's Dogma 2 came out looking like it does with the features that it's got, and the frame rate wasn't brilliant and it was somewhat off 30 frames per second, there's no way that it would stop me in and of itself. Like, putting aside the fact that obviously it is an expensive purchase, but that game just looks so damn good, I would play it like that and make the best of it, I'm fairly certain, just like I am with Final Fantasy VII, which is also not where it should be in terms of performance and visuals in certain regards. So Dragon's Dogma is like that for me. I would play it anyway. Dodge. Dragon's Dogma 2.
Are you ready for me now to sing?
Yes, please.
This topic, right? This is the whole reason why I did my little retweet
No,
a few
I'm
months
not ready
back
for you to sing.
about
I'm not ready for you
these.
to sing.
Nah,
I want
I'm
you to tell
not
me about Dragon's
these.
Dogma first. Oh, I
I'm
started.
gonna.
I can't
I'm
stop
getting.
him
I'm
now.
getting on
Go
to
on,
it. Yeah.
roll with it.
So these consoles, yeah. All of a sudden now, it's a big concern. 30 FPS, 4K 30. Oh, I ain't too sure about that now. Yeah, but last generation, 30 FPS was okay. Yeah, you had 4K 30 in Assassin's Creed. You had 4K 30 in these big open world games. Now all of a sudden, I'm not really happy about that. Starfield was 30 FPS, 30 FPS for a first-person game. Don't matter. That don't matter. But then, like on Deadly's point, it don't matter because it was in Game Pass. It didn't actually, or most people probably didn't fork out the full price for the game. But we just came from a generation where 4K 30 in open world was, it was standard procedure. This game is doing big things. You can see it. You can see the things that it does. It's doing big things. I don't see this as a big issue, personally. Obviously, we all want the 60. I want the 60 frames. I want more than 60. That's why I decided to get rid of my console, because it weren't doing it. Yeah, but I'm lucky enough that I had this option available to me. You know what I mean? But for all this naysay and, Dragon's Dogma's only 30, like, but there's been other games like this. These new, like, next gen games, yeah, clearly the hardware ain't up to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just not up to it. As a cross generation thing that benefits the little Series X enhanced stamps all over the games, the little PS5 upgrades, and everyone's like, oh, this hardware is sick. And then you go, okay, well, here's a piece of software designed just specifically for it, and it can't do it. Yeah, and that's okay. Yeah. But when you're getting these, that's terrible. It's only 4K, but that's what you had. Do you know what I mean? That's what you had. So you're not any worse off than you were last gen. It just is what it is. Yeah, and the game is very ambitious. It's going to do some very big things. I guarantee you now, for all the concern about 4K 30 on this game, it will still be in the Game of the Year contender at the end of the year. Yeah, so whether you like 30 FPS or not, this game's going to get reviewed well. Like, it's a given.
On the Starfield point, I think part of the reason why that pill was fairly easy to swallow was because the scope and ambition of Starfield was quite clear. Yes, there are some questions around how that was implemented in terms of how the open galaxy or each planet worked, because as we found out post launch, it's all sort of segmented into different tiles, and there's no sort of smooth transition between. But some of what Starfield was doing in terms of the the global illumination, the real time movement of planets and things like that, the obviously the physics based systems that you've got throughout the game, clearly putting quite a lot of demand on everything that Starfield is trying to do. And actually the 30 FPS cap was implemented to a point where it did feel nice and consistent, and was kind of, you get used to it pretty quickly. I really enjoyed playing Starfield. Even at 30, I really loved playing that game. I think the concern that I'd have with Dragon's Dogma is the fact that, what we said at the beginning of this conversation is it doesn't necessarily sound like it's going to be consistent. So I'm interested to see sort of what that experience feels like, because until you actually get hands on and you start experiencing screen tearing and erratic movements in terms of what the frame rate is doing, you don't really know how that's going to feel until you get hands on. I completely agree with you, Dodge, in terms of just generally across the board, people are right to be critical of what both the Series X and the PS5 aren't achieving, because I think the expectation from consumers, especially, guys in this podcast space, we were expecting a hell of a lot more from the hardware than what the reality is. But games move so quickly, hardware moves so quickly. There's that old adage of like, by the time I build a PC, and I would like it to have a 4090. Whether or not it actually does, I don't fucking know, because it depends on how much money I can save. But by the time I buy that 4090 is going to be out of date, even if like, you know, the next iteration of or the next generation of graphics cards come out. Like, it's not going to be that long before that then starts being considered old, because tech naturally moves quite quickly. And I think it's frustrating for any console player this gen, because again, we can look at something like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which again, I haven't played it. For guys who haven't been here before, I'm not really a Final Fantasy guy, so I'm not really affected by this conversation. But from what I have come to understand is that quality mode looks a hell of a lot better than performance mode, because the sacrifices made in performance mode don't look great. While we're on that topic, because Asa, you have played it, where are you at with Final Fantasy VII Rebirths?
I don't want to overly go into that, because kind of the whole point of this Xbox show is to filter out the stuff that's not Xbox, and Final Fantasy VII,
sure,
for better or worse, is not Xbox for the time being. I'm really enjoying it. I don't like how it's gone into Ubisoft's structure quite quickly, but I'm really enjoying the game overall. The performance definitely took some getting used to, but I'm comfortable with it now. That game is going to look gorgeous in future when it comes to more powerful hardware. No, the performance mode on that game is horrifically blurry. I think if you sat a long way away, or you played it on a portal or a tiny like phone screen or something, then you'd be fine in performance mode. But if you're playing on a TV and you're remotely close to it, that mode is unfortunately not up to standard at the moment. In terms of the power of the consoles, though, go on.
I was just going to say, do you think that with what we've seen with Rebirth, to a certain extent what we've seen with Starfield as well, and now Dragon's Dogma, do you think this is the expected pattern? Do you think consoles really are sort of, this generation at least, doomed to prioritize 30 over 60?
The only person in the Xbox sphere that still likes the consoles and thinks they did well this generation, I think. So I look around, and pretty much every big like influencer in the Xbox space has actually moved over to PC, and they talk about Xbox as a token gesture because they've built a fan base there, but they're all PC heads really. And I actually like these consoles. So I learned very, very quickly in the 360 era, I learned that console hardware is only good for like 2 or 3 years, really. It stays relevant in the hardware space. And at that point, there is a massive gulf that opens up between consoles and PC, because that's just the nature of technology, the speed that it evolves. But the consoles remain like good at what they do. I actually thought the last generation was really disappointing in that regard. It's the one exception. So the 360 was good for 3 years. The Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, they launched bad. They were never up to par with PC at the point that they launched. This generation was a massive improvement, because these consoles launched and they were good when they launched. And now 3 years into the generation, at the kind of cadence you would expect, yeah, they're falling a bit behind, because hardware moves, technology moves, software development moves. But I actually still really like these consoles, and I'm going to be playing on the Series X for quite a lot of games. Dragon's Dogma, realistically, I've got a PC that can do better, so I will play it on the PC. If I did not have that PC, I'll be more than happy to play it on the Series X. And things like Unicorn Overlord comes out in a day or two, and I'm going to play that on my Series X over my PC, because it is a freaking awesome system to use in terms of speed and responsiveness for any game that is not trying to push that fidelity bar through the ceiling.
I'm with you in saying I like the consoles. I like what they can do. I just wish that they could do more. But what they can achieve in terms of being able to implement ray tracing, even if it is mostly at 30 FPS, I still appreciate the fact that they can do that. And the fact that they're both leveraging decent SSDs as well, especially with the Xbox. You've got Quick Resume. Quick Resume is phenomenal. It has changed the way I play video games, and I love that. I think that the PS5 also performs really, really well in games like Spider-Man 2, Ratchet and Clank. They are beautiful games, and they look really nice, and they play really well. It's just a little bit frustrating when, especially like a tentpole title like Starfield, we wanted it as 60. We all did, but it is what it is. Sorry, Dodge. You
So
were gonna
no. It's good. There's a good. There's another good bit to lead me on to this, like what Replicant just said in the chat. Asa, for as a fan of the consoles as you are from the launch of this generation, do you feel Microsoft will be making a massive error if they do not have a mid-gen refresh?
So
because if the 5 Pro comes in, and just for the argument's sake of Dragon's Dogma, yeah, if that can give you a better performance buff in a game like that, and more games going forward for the next, say, 3 to 4 years till the next gen, if Microsoft is sitting with the Series X, do you feel that that's going to be damaging for them going forward?
I think the optics are very, very awkward for them. If there is a PlayStation 5 Pro, which there's almost certainly going to be at the end of this year, the optics are very awkward for their console fan base to say, like, especially Microsoft's first-party games like Call of Duty, to release a Call of Duty game and say it plays better on PlayStation than Xbox. That's from the outside freaking awkward. At the same time, though, whereas like Sony need a PlayStation 5 Pro for the people like me that see the hardware fall off after 3 years and want to keep up to some degree. The PlayStation 5 Pro, it's not for the typical PlayStation person. It's for that really core audience that just want that generation prolonged a bit longer but don't want to fall quite so far behind. On the Xbox side of things, you very clearly have that step available already whenever you want it because of the way that Microsoft support PC. So it takes away a massive part of that audience that would be supported by a Pro console. Because you're talking about the super hardcore Xbox fan, and they definitely can get PC if they want. There are options available and on the table for them to play every single Xbox first-party game the day that it comes out at the highest fidelity they can possibly achieve or afford. It's a weird one. I can see why they're not doing it, and I can see that the optics are going to be painful particularly for console warriors.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even on the console warriors stand because I don't war anymore, yeah? You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, regardless of console wars and this, that, and the other, for the average Joe, yeah, their little kid is what plays this game best. And Sony are fucking godly marketing, yeah? So you best believe if Microsoft don't keep course with them and they've got something that's ahead of them. I mean, episode 13's in there fucking clutching his Phil Spencer pillar going, that's all right, they'll leapfrog them on the next gen. Yeah, they ain't. I tell you what, if they leave it, yeah, and you got 3 years of Sony going, plays best on PlayStation because they're so good at marketing, by the time the next gen comes, they'll be fucking dead because they're already behind. And I'm not even in a console warring space, but I'm talking about in the mind share of the average Joe. We're in this gear, yeah, we know how this stuff works, we know. But for the average Joe, plays best on PlayStation. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like it'd be a big misstep to, it's not going to be a leaps and bounds difference, but if they have that much, Sony, they will scream it from the rooftops and they will maximise the damage.
Something that we talked about last week with Gamzly was what happens if, because we don't know if it's a when or an if. What happens if Xbox puts out a new console earlier than expected with a new Call of Duty with obviously a next gen version on its new flagship console, jumping straight into Game Pass? Dodge, do you think that could be potent enough to challenge that narrative that you might see hit the more casual market?
I don't know. I don't know, man. The Game Pass thing, yeah. For us, in here, we all know about it. But again, I'm thinking from the outside. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking about the people whose kids are just getting into these £400 boxes that they want to play on. Yeah, Microsoft don't even advertise Game Pass that well. You know what I mean? Let's have it banked. Let's get banked the rights now. Whenever you walk down the street, apart from episode 13, because he probably fucking sees it when he goes to sleep. But when you're walking down the street, where are you seeing Xbox Game Pass? Where are you seeing it? You're not seeing it. They don't. Microsoft's biggest problem is they did never market well. They've not marketed well, in my opinion, since the Xbox 360. That shit was everywhere. I said this before. I've been in nightclubs and they had Xbox 360 booths, like in the game store, in a row of them, like, and people were over there to rave, like playing a game and all that. The 360 was everywhere. The original Xbox was everywhere. And I think they rested on their laurels massively because of the 360 gen. The Xbox One, obviously, we all know what happened there. And then Phil's had a bit of an uphill battle since then. But on the marketing side of things, they do not do enough. They do not do anywhere near enough for Sony. Like I said, Sony, just one thing with Sony is from pretty much as far back as I can remember, the Champions League of football. So the biggest footballing competition in Europe on a domestic level. PlayStation is everywhere. Every single stadium, it is all you see all the time. Like, Microsoft have really got to up their game. The hardware is fine. Like, the hardware, they've got the most powerful console. But if you're not selling it, then why is anyone going to buy it? You know what I mean? Chill, Dad. I'm chill, episode 13. I'm so chill, mate. Honestly, I'm just trying to keep you grounded, brother, because you're fickle. You're flying away in that.
I thought we'd fix Deadly Headley. Unfortunately, he has crashed out again. But what we're going to do, and while he's struggling to come back, let's bring up our first question for the day, and we'll begin to draw this to a beautiful close.
Before we get into that question, I just wanted to address a question that came up last week. I couldn't think of my answer. I have since thought about my answer. There was a question about, have you ever bought a game that you've immediately regretted? And I have. It was Watch Dogs 1, because that game was a pile of shit. And I paid full whack for it. I bought it digitally. Big regret. That was
Have awful. You ever been back to the Watch Dogs series since?
I picked up Watch Dogs Legion because it was a launch title with the Series X.
Yeah, so I hope you learned a valuable lesson, and next time there's a Watch Dogs game,
Watch Dogs.
Sorry, Ubisoft, but Deadly Headley's not gonna pick it up ever again. Let's do that really first question, please. I'm not sure if it's coming. Dodge is back. Gamzly. Gamzly's not allowed to ask questions. Do we think that the Final Fantasy VII trilogy finds its way to Xbox at all, and will it matter after the time lost? With Final Fantasy VII Rebirth sales down 22% in Japan, will Square Enix finally learn its lesson to release on all platforms on day one? Eventually.
I think it will come eventually. I'm not sure. It's a tough one because PlayStation does seem to have that locked down. And to be fair, Final Fantasy VII as a title it feels synonymous with PlayStation as a brand, because PlayStation, the original PS1, was where you could play Final Fantasy VII. Though there was a PC version as well. Is that correct?
And an Xbox version eventually, and probably a Nintendo version. Okay.
That was a game that Sony paid for exclusivity and took them off of Nintendo, right? Final Fantasy?
No. There's lots of talk that was the case, but according to Square Enix, it left Nintendo because it wouldn't fit on a cartridge.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, on that point, I think it will go to Xbox. I think reason being is money. Square Enix were carnage. Obviously, Sony have a deal with them, obviously, with regards to priority. But, yeah, I don't know if it's going to come when the third installment's out and it's done with, or what, you know what I mean? But it's money on the table, right? So
that's the challenge. The problem that they've got, and the reason that this deal is so easy for Sony to do, is that Final Fantasy VII isn't necessarily going to sell that well on Xbox, even when it does come, which means that any price for exclusivity is actually probably not as high as it would otherwise be. Like if it were the other way around and Microsoft wanted Final Fantasy VII to be exclusive on Xbox, they would have to pay so much money for that because of the amount of sales that they'd be losing on the Sony side of things. But for Sony to secure that deal, it's not hitting Square Enix nearly as hard to skip the Xbox platform as it would the Sony one, just because it does have that legacy and history with Sony, and it does have less of a Call of Duty audience on that platform, I suppose. So, will we see it? Yes, probably.
Yes.
But not necessarily before the third game has come out. The original deal that Sony had for Part 1 for Remake was only supposed to last a year, and when the year expired, they set up a new marketing deal with the Intergrade content expansion to keep it there for longer. What the terms of the deal are right now today, we don't know. There was some stuff going around Twitter and stuff yesterday saying that the whole trilogy was exclusive to PlayStation, based on an article in the Washington Post, but they came out and corrected that and said that's not actually what was said at all. So we're still completely blind to what the deals of the terms of exclusivity actually are. But if you're waiting for it on Xbox, definitely don't hold your breath, unfortunately. I'd still very much like to see it there, especially as the PC version of Remake had myriad issues with stuttering and things like that. So to have another option to play it on the Xbox rather than the PlayStation would have been appetizing. Next question, please. All the questions are in the Discord, so we have to look at chat. They're going to be pasted in there. If you're not on our Discord, you're missing out. It's a brilliant place. But yeah, let's have the next one, please. I can't go and look on Discord. It all mess things up. So Alex, oh no, it's an Alex question. I've invited you. No, Alex, calm down. Will the PlayStation 5 Pro outsell and outperform all the current gens, including the Switch and the new release handhelds? Does Xbox have any plans for a comeback? If so, what's their strategy for 2024 and beyond? So Alex, for those that don't know, you can never take anything that Alex says at face value. He's always on the wind up. He's got a very dry sense of humor. And he knows full well that the PlayStation 5 Pro is not going to outsell the Nintendo Switch. So I'm not sure what else we can really say on that one. What is Xbox's strategy for 2024 and beyond? That's a little bit broad, Alex. They're going to try and get everyone to buy games and subscribe to Game Pass forever.
Fuck knows what their strategy is, but we won't see much of it because they won't market correctly. So I guess we'll have to just guess.
On that point, I think that I'm not for a moment making excuses for Xbox's bad marketing, because it does need to get its shit together. But I think that Xbox will have a much easier time with marketing when it has a more consistent pipeline of content for Game Pass. And we're starting to see that. It still has a ways to go in terms of communicating it and advertising it, because there are still normies everywhere who don't know what Game Pass is. And that's a challenge that needs fixing desperately. But I think it's easier to sell Game Pass when you have more content.
I would counter. Go on, mate. Go on.
So the other thing that I was going to sort of goes back to a point that I've made on here quite a lot, actually. I think that a way of selling Game Pass into users that don't currently have an Xbox is with a cloud-based offering, so a Stadia-like experience, something that we'd sort of kind of seen hinted at the with the leaks that we saw in the FTC case last year. I think that as a proposition to new users that aren't currently in the ecosystem is quite an effective way of getting more people into Game Pass. But again, comes down to messaging, comes down to the fact that it is objectively quite hard. And I'm sort of speaking with like my marketing brain and my branding brain and my advertising brain, because it's what I do for a living. It's really difficult to distill what Game Pass and cloud do in a really short message that you can capture someone's attention within 15 seconds. Because if you don't know what it is, it's quite difficult to just sort of simplify it. And I think that's Microsoft's biggest challenge. I think if it can communicate what Game Pass does to someone who has no idea what Xbox is, let alone what Game Pass is, properly, you'll start seeing movement there. But it feels like
I think they have a further challenge.
Of mind share.
You had a counterpoint.
I was just gonna say, obviously, I don't work in marketing on that, but from the consumer level, like what you said, it'll be easier for them to market when there's a more consistent pipeline and But they haven't had a consistent pipeline really since the start of the Xbox One gen, when they only had 6 studios. My argument to that would be, I would expect even harder marketing when you don't have a pipeline. So when you do have a Forza Motorsport 6, when you do have a Gears of War 4, when you do have Halo 5, I expect that to be everywhere because they're trying to bring people into their ecosystem. I would think the other way, that when there's constant pipeline, the marketing will be less and less. So they could just go, this is coming to Xbox, this is coming to Xbox. Well, when you're trying to draw people to your platform, I would expect it everywhere. But then again, like I say, I base all this off of the Xbox 360. That was in the UK and in Europe, it was everywhere. It was everywhere. Whenever anything was coming, it was everywhere. And just on your cloud thing as well, was you alluding to was it Project Dante, the Fire Stick sort of thing?
Keystone.
That they were Project Keystone.
Yeah, I think how it's implemented is still sort of up for debate. But yeah, essentially a way of being able to deliver that Game Pass on cloud experience without the console, because I think that's how you get people who have already dropped 500 quid on a system, because you can't expect a casual who has bought a PS5 to go and buy an Xbox Series X as well. You might with the S, and maybe that was part of the strategy, but he's
gone.
I was just going to say on that point with the is it Keystone? You said.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
with the I was just
you're not really a casual if you've bought both systems. It's unlikely that you're a casual gamer. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I agree, and that Project Keystone. I mean, Asa, how long ago was that thing floating about on bookshelves in Phil Spencer's office? About 3 years ago.
Something like
because now Microsoft and Windows are supporting APKs, and they're doing work with Android subsystems and stuff like that. I mean, a really easy way to market Keystone is have an OS on there that does the cloud, Xbox X Cloud or whatever, but you've also got an Amazon App Store on there as well, which you can have on Windows. So you sell this product and go, you can game on it, but you can still put your Netflix on it, you can still put your Prime on it, you can still put da-da-da-da-da. But again, Microsoft, this has been years in the making. Jez, I'm pretty sure, like over 2 years ago, was saying like it could be a thing quite soon, and it hasn't happened. And usually when it doesn't happen, it's not going to happen. So yeah, the cloud gaming thing is a proper head scratcher. How they're going to get people into it?
Well, it's also the missing piece there. So marketing and Game Pass and making people aware of it and all the rest of it. There's a big question that Xbox haven't managed to figure out for themselves is who that potential audience actually is, who they are marketing to, who they can convince to actually play an Xbox game that is interested enough in gaming, willing to hold one of these, but doesn't already have the console. Because this is more intimidating than people realize to the broader, wider audience. You mentioned people that are currently gaming on a PlayStation, and that's an attainable audience. That's just taking market share. They can fight those people in the console battleground already. But in terms of actually expanding the audience beyond what it is in the console space, which has been Microsoft's ambition, which they've been very vocal about, I'm not sure any amount of Game Pass marketing in and out. I'm not sure any amount of Game Pass marketing is going to convince the non-gamey people that they want to hold one of these and they want to play an Xbox game. And it's a really difficult square to circle, as it were, because Microsoft has tried and it's not worked so far. Which means kinds of content that are for different people and potentially different input systems entirely are probably key to Microsoft's growth, I would say. Solving this problem is a big one. This might sound silly to all of us because we use these all the time, constantly, and they're like second nature to press these buttons. But
no, it's not silly. It's true.
Because
you said it.
I said it, so it must be true. I told you earlier I lie maliciously whenever I feel like it. Let's have the next question, please. And please let's stop attacking episode 13 for liking his Xbox because he's innocent, really.
Oh, is he getting attacked?
Like an innocent child, a little bit.
Come on, let's not bully.
So Pete has asked, a few years ago, we seem to be making great strides in terms of cross-play becoming more and more popular, but now it seems to be wallowing around aimlessly. Do you think publishers have a valid reason not to embrace cross-play? Maybe only certain developers have the technical skills to implement it, or it just can't be bothered. What could be done to encourage the whole industry to get on board with it? So has it slipped over the last few years? Do you think you've seen a reduction in the availability of crossplay? I would say I pretty much expect it to be there, and I'm disappointed when it's not at the moment. What do you reckon, either of you?
I just think it's something that we would all love it to be fully embraced, or, rational people would like it to be fully embraced. You can play anything, anywhere, wherever you want to play, with whoever you want to play, But that is, as beautiful an idea as that is, we see that it's not being fully utilised, which is a shame, because you're just boxing people in and stuff like that. And also what else it's doing is it's also sort of like, elbowing people, because if all your mates are playing it on PlayStation, but you've got an Xbox, say, yeah, and the only way you can play that game is by getting another piece of hardware, that's what you end up having to do, So, yeah, it's something that I'd love to see every game multiplayer come with crossplay and stuff like that, but I can't see it happening, mate.
Yeah, Deadly Headley, do you have anything to add on that?
So I actually thought that crossplay was sort of more prevalent than it has been. So I'm not really across any particular games that aren't utilizing it. But I know, the big. Actually, forgive me if I'm wrong here. Does Minecraft enable crossplay? Yeah. Can you play with? Yeah. Same.
Everything
for
Microsoft
things
does.
Roblox is now on PlayStation as well, isn't it?
Roblox will be crossplay. Yeah, I've not touched it, but I'm sure it's you.
Fortnite is, Apex is, Call of Duty is. I think all of those. I want to say GTA is as well. I don't know that one for certain, but I think a lot of those big multiplayer titles that I've just mentioned, that those are really the games that you would expect crossplay to be prevalent on. Again, I'm not really sure of any specific multiplayer examples that Pete might be referring to that aren't using it.
There definitely are some. I know Remnant 2 had it after the fact, so they've added it. Either it's coming soon or it's very recent. The Ascent is one that still never got it between systems. We know the main obstruction, the main barrier to crossplay has been Sony's policies. And I'm not necessarily begrudging Sony for this. I'd like to see them make more of an effort to give crossplay everywhere. For us as players, it makes everything so much easier. When we're trying to arrange our multiplayer gaming sessions at the weekend, it's so much like I specifically look for games that are crossplay so that I can say you can join this game regardless of what platform you're on, because it's just so much more welcoming, more social, more connected than anything that we had before. At the same time, you can totally understand Sony's perspective. Playing where your friends are is one of the biggest, most sticky points that an ecosystem has. And if you're sitting on top of that pile and you've got that in your pocket, it makes sense that it's nice for people to get cross-platform, but you can totally understand why Sony are reluctant and resistant to it, and it sucks. Oh, he's gone, he's back. But the way that they did it is the bit where they did it through contracts and admin. So it took them a long time. They had to get thoroughly bullied by Epic using the weight of Fortnite to enable crossplay at all. And when they did it, Sony's lawyers, being very, very defensively minded, put in a whole load of policies to protect them from losing any money in the whole scenario. But what that ended up looking like is a massive admin headache for anyone that actually wants to enable crossplay. So you have to have Sony's policies around it are based around where people are spending their money relative to where they're spending their time, which is It's not practical. You can see where the legal minds are coming in, the defensive contracts are coming in to make this real. But they're saying if you're playing Fortnite on PlayStation 95% of the time, but then you're whipping out your iPhone and buying your V-Bucks, which obviously you can't do at the moment because of their other legal battles. But if the V-Bucks are cheaper on iPhone and people are playing on PlayStation and buying things on their phone, we want our fair share of that money, which is like a fair stance, but it's not a practical stance. And they put it in NOA. And that's probably the biggest hindrance to crossplay. And we can only hope that it gets better, but I think broadly the industry is moving in the right direction and we are getting more and more of it. So, next question, please. Baz, the problem that you found on big games with crossplay is turning it off so you're not playing with certain platforms. Yes, so that is another thing. Crossplay between PC and consoles is still, difficult, particularly in competitive ones. So it is actually sometimes not for the best for everyone, or should at least be optional in that scenario. But next question, episode 13 has asked, I swear we've been over this before. You asked the panel weeks back if Game Pass is sustainable. We've definitely been over this. Deadly Headley, is Game Pass sustainable?
I think it is. But I think part of the reason why it is and will be going forward for the foreseeable is because of some of the moves that Microsoft have made to secure themselves a little bit. So we know that Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard King largely because of King and the money printing machine that comes with Candy Crush. The other one is Call of Duty Mobile. And I think while those games are fairly cheap to run and fairly cheap to make, they make a shit ton of money. And like we've said before on this show, what that allows Microsoft to do is feed the Game Pass machine from more than just the subscriber base that's coming in to keep that.
Hypothetical, though. Taking what you're saying there. No, but taking what you're saying there, that is essentially you're saying it's being sustained by external funding from mobile and all the rest of it. If you were to take it in isolation, so you got just Game Pass and the games that are going into Game Pass, ignoring what Candy Crush is going to make elsewhere, do you think that Microsoft could afford to run all the studios that they've got and get third-party content into Game Pass just off the back of how big Game Pass is?
Again, with how big Microsoft is, that's the thing, isn't it? Because like you look at Microsoft, the $1 trillion company, can definitely afford to run Game Pass. Xbox, and only Xbox in isolation, maybe. I mean, they have done so far, but again, we don't really know the
deep pockets,
of how it's funded and how deep those pockets are. It's a difficult question to answer, and I know it sort of gets brought up quite a lot in console worry spaces and all that sort of shit. Like,
why though?
I don't know if Microsoft are making it work and they continue making it work and consumers still get to enjoy Game Pass, does it fucking matter? Probably not.
Exactly. You've ultimately, Dar just nailed it in 2 words. Who cares? Ultimately, Microsoft have committed to sustaining it. They're going to. They've said day one releases are carrying on. Game Pass is carrying on. Whether it's making its own money or not doesn't matter to us at all once we've got that commitment and it still exists.
It's not.
Go on, Dodge.
I'm not talking shit, but you take episode 13. He's a massive Xbox guy, big time Xbox guy, Game Pass subscriber. You talk about the sustainability of the service, yeah. If you are a Game Pass subscriber, you get a game at a discount, yeah. So you can buy the game. Is that right?
10% off or whatever. Yeah.
10% off, yeah. He don't buy any games, yeah. So if you're that concerned, all these people, all these Xbox people, when the conversation comes up about sustainability, is it sustainable? Well, are you buying the games that you're playing in the service? No. Don't worry about it then. Just do what you, like Asa says, I'm going to play whatever they're giving me. Fuck sustainability. I don't care about that. Because this is Microsoft. They're like one of the top of the tree. Yeah, so like you say, with regards to the financing and all that, they'll make this work as long as... I'll tell you what, if you want to know if it's sustainable or not, it don't really matter what we talk about in here. It will ultimately fall down to Microsoft when they say, no, we've had enough of that now, let's stop all that. Yeah, that'll be the end of the sustainability conversation, because if they're not happy to sustain it, self-sustain, yeah, then there'll be no more. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. So there's no point having a conversation like, let's have it right. You know what I mean? I've been a Game Pass subscriber for years. I ain't bought one game in that service, you know, and all these people go, oh, it helps, like Phil's even saying it, oh, it helps drive sales. And you're like, does it though? Does it really? How many people are beating Halo Infinite and going, do you know what? I enjoyed that much, I'm going to buy it. It's got free multiplayer. Oh, do you know what? I beat this game, I'm going to buy it. You know, no one's doing that. People are buying the game. You know, we all had a Blockbusters account back in the day. We'd hire the game, we'd rent the fucking game, we'd try and just smash the granny out of that in a week and then send it back. We weren't sending it back and then going, oh, I'll beat that game in a week. I tell you what, I'm going to go and pay 50 quid because I want to fucking own that again. Don't be stupid. I don't care about that sustainability conversation. I'm just a taker. Yes.
Headley.
FTW is definitely clipping
smash the granny out of your game.
I'll just say smash the granny. Like that's just a saying. Right. I don't actually.
It's not a real saying off of the rooftops, though. Just it
is in the East End. It's a common saying. But anyway, that's my opinion on the fucking sustainability of Game Pass.
We're at the end. We're going to do the last two questions. We've got Tony has asked, how many dreadlocks does Headley have? And can he give some to Dodge?
Every time I see... Go on.
No,
I was just going to say, what I love about Deadly Headley when I first see him is, I was at like late 90s, early 90s, Kong, you know, Children of the Kong. I just get massive green eye when I see his hair. I'm like, I wanted that hair. When I was like banging to the music and they all had their little dreads, I was like, yeah, I could have a bit of that. But nah, it weren't happening. It ain't happening now either.
One of my best friends, her name's Kate, and shout out to her. She's probably not watching, but I'm definitely going to clip this up and send it to her. It was a point where we were at school together and really, really bored in a sociology lesson. And if my sociology teacher happens to be listening, sorry, mate, he's probably not. And we counted them. It was over 100. I have since lost a few because I had my side shaved and I need to get that done again because currently it doesn't look that impressive. But I do have them stashed away because at some point they will end up getting reattached to my head if I want.
You can have them
done. So Dodge, I actually can send you some if you want, mate.
Oh, do you know what? Don't leave me on. I'll be like the early first album, Corey Taylor. I'll just have the odd one or two stuck on my head. Just like. But yeah, nah, your hair looks better than mine, Deadly, so don't worry about it, mate.
At some point it'll probably have to come off, but for the time being, like, I'm rolling with it. But
that's it, mate. It looks good.
Yeah. Thanks, mate.
Our last question isn't a question. Is this the last one, Isla? It says Painful Discourse says, Asa, stop yucking with other people's stealth. Yum. That's not a question. That was the last one, though. So, Painful Discourse, I will not. Stealth is for cowards and wankers, and you cannot change my mind. Maybe a game will be able to change my mind at some point in time when there is a game that just nails stealth in the way that I want it. But for now, cowards and wankers, sorry about it. So, we've reached the end. It's run for 2 hours, which is, I didn't actually expect it to today, but it has done. Oh no, we reached the end and Deadly's not going to be able to do his outro. Oh, he's back. He's going to be doing right. Deadly Headley. I was going to do Dodge first. Sorry?
I was just going to ask you what your thoughts on Splinter Cell were while we're on the subject.
Stealth is for cowards and wankers. And Deadly Headley, before you cut off again, tell people what you're up to for the week, where they can find you. Is anything going on with your channel?
Not at the moment. Again, soon, just sort of managing some stuff. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube. Twitter is at @deadlyheadley_. YouTube is Deadly Headley, spelled Deadly and then HEADLEY. Find me on there. If you haven't come across this podcast before, you haven't come across my channel, I make content that focuses quite strongly on just production value. I have a journalism degree, so I quite like writing. I sort of craft the article, shoot, edit, and sort of put a real focus into the production value and quality there. My channel's fairly new, but has grown very quickly. I think we are just over, we're on our way to about 850 subscribers, I think, which is really, really awesome because I only started making content in July of last year. So really fucking hyped about that. So again, yeah, if you don't know my channel, go and check out my content. There's about 13 videos on there. And yeah, at some point I will start getting back on the content train, and sort of picking up whichever news story seems to be most noteworthy at the time. But yeah, just sort of, being quite honest, I've got quite a few things sort of juggling both professionally and personally that is sort of getting in the way of making content right now. But at some point that will come back. So make sure that you are subbed and go and enjoy the content that's currently there, because I'm very, very proud of it. And if you look carefully enough and go from the old stuff or the older videos to the newer one, you can see my progression in terms of how my writing style is improved, how my delivery is improved, and the overall production quality. Again, stuff that I'm really, really proud of. So yeah, go and check it out if you haven't seen it already.
Yeah, if you haven't already subscribed, then definitely do. Deadly Headley is actually, I think officially now, the biggest Xbox influencer that still primarily plays on the Xbox console. So if you are interested in that circle, he's the one to go and follow immediately. Dodge, thank you so much for coming in and filling in for Gamzly while he sulked after his big falling out with Deadly Headley. Much appreciated. Tell people where they can find you and what you're up to.
Thanks, Asa, for inviting me on to the second one this week, and Deadly for having me here. It's good to finally meet you, mate. Is just sitting in there thinking there must still be a little bit of the Xbox still firing away in me, you know what I mean? Because I get a little bit passionate around Xbox, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't have a channel. I'm not talented or anything like that anymore. So you'd probably just find me on Twitter. Not console warring, but maybe posting memes. Yeah, or where you'll find me is in the GameOn Asa Discord server, which you should all definitely be getting involved in, because there's a good community there of like-minded, well-balanced individuals, and episode 13 as well.
Don't forget the show that you're on every week here as well.
Oh yeah, and obviously I mentioned about the 2, and then obviously you can find me on a Tuesday night, same time as this, on a Tuesday with Asa and the wonderful Christopher Grinnell, where we talk all gaming, all of it. But yeah, thanks a lot, thanks everyone, and thank you for not hitting 50 likes. So I ain't got to get my shirt off. Lovely, thanks a lot. Thanks, Asa.
If you can
hit that like button on the way out, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, if you're watching now, if you're watching afterwards, please do hit that. Leave a little comment or whatever. It all does help. Thank you, everyone, for coming by and watching. There will be more within the GameOn Arcadia community, more games being played, community ones you can get involved with. So stick around, and there will be all the podcasts coming around again next week. For now, yeah, we're done. I've not got a good outro. I'm just going to press the button.